ब्रह्माचलोकादधीपति सहाम्पते कथञ्जलि अनादिवरं मया जता सन्तीता साता परजगज्जातिका देशे तु धम्मम् अनुकम्पितं भजम्.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So moving along, and I sort of putting down some verbal markers: love, breathing, upright. That Will and I are resonating, repeating these terms. It's like these are markers, and you get to feel, what are they talking about? What's that? Just keep it in mind. And gradually, they begin to fill up with direct experience, your own direct experience over time. They're not just words of the intellect. They are words we're using to signify particular experiences, and the depth of these experiences may not be immediately apparent, or the significances, but yeah, that's language for you. Yeah. And I want to, in this time, also begin to bring in some of the Pali language terms, so that you've got a good reference point to the bedrock of the Buddha's words that you can keep referring back to. Oh, that's what sankhara means. That's what mental formation means. Oh, that experience. Because some of these terms are quite slippery and elusive as to what actually has been signified. And yet, these are the words the Buddha used. And my sense is, if you really want to master this practice, you want to get as close as you can to what tools, verbal tools, the Buddha was using. You know, you can say you're doing a brain operation, you say, give me a stick. No, I don't mean a stick, I mean a scalpel. No, I don't mean a hacksaw, I mean a scalpel. It's kind of like a stick and a bit like a hacksaw, but it's actually a scalpel. What's a scalpel? Well, when you're operating on a brain, you don't use a stick, you use a scalpel. It's kind of like a stick. You know? So sometimes these words have got a precision to them that we find ourselves struggling to meet with English language. So often we're coining up particular terms that may have more resonance to them and trying to see this gives you a way in to fill out some of these bedrock terms. You know. And this is not, admittedly, this is a retreat. We're not going into an academic study. So these come in slowly. So we've had so far, we've had love, we've had breathing, we've had upright come in into our occasion, a retreat occasion. Here's another one, wholeness. And I'll say this teaching, wholeness, it's the wholeness. It's the wholeness that does the work, not the person. It's the wholeness that does the work, that does the real liberating. And just kind of keep that one there somewhere. And we'll try to fill out what that means. But if you've begun to get a sense of upright, both as not just a physical feature, but as a psychological, emotional directness and integrity and restraint and balance, all these come into it. You know, physically, we can feel it in the body when it's standing upright and it's completely balanced. You get an energy that's very poised, sensitive, it's not rigid, and you can rest within that balance. And you can detect when you're standing all the qualities that push you out of balance: worry, doubt, urge, desire, fear, aversion, that kind of swim and sway. And you're practicing to stay the balance and let these energies wash over. And gradually what happens is you keep your awareness on the balance. All those distracting energies begin to melt into the upright. The upright energy captures them. So we get more and more our confusion transmutes into our sanity, right? Whereas often in the confused states, our sanity starts to dissipate into confusion as we get distracted, you know. So it can go either way. But here we're saying, I'm taking it back, you know, I'm taking it back. I'm bringing it back home. Now that upright balance, you see, means no bias. To you as to me, yeah, pleasant, painful, I'm staying balanced. I'm staying in that upright state. No fighting, no pushing, no grabbing, no hoarding allowed. The protocols of balance. It's clean, it's free. Now, if you get the reference to that, and you try to sense how that stands or exists within the middle of the body, within the center of the heart, within a relational experience to others as to myself, right? Balanced. Yeah. Then you set your view straight. You set your view straight. Your view is not about this and that and how does that get to know your balance, is to get that, and then everything will begin to form in harmony around that. And other things some things will begin to dissolve and just float away. Other things begin to transmute, you know. So your fear transmutes into a sense of awe and respect. You know, your anger transmutes into strength. You know, passion transmutes into warmth. Skillful aspects of these negative energies. Energy itself is not really negative or positive, it just flows through negative or positive channels. And the right view, which is almost the beginning of the Buddhist path, there is the value of good and evil. There is that which is given, that which is offered, that which is sacrificed. There is this world and another world. There are those beings who, through their own direct experience, have realized this world and the other world in liberation. This is the law, this is the view of the depth, the reality of what we call depth experience. Yeah, which means you want to put it in a very simple way, the experience of your heart. That's why we're looking at it. And as I'm saying, you know, once you begin to disengage from sense contact and all that, move around that, you come into the depth, and goes into the heart, doesn't it? Not all that is good news. There's distress and agitation and nervousness and all kinds of unpleasant things there, unskillful things. But with the right view, you're saying, you're lining yourself to, well, how does this get ordered not through me policing it, but through create or establishing that upright center, upright view. This I focus on. I focus on this now. I focus on non-fighting now. I focus on non-stealing, non-acquisition, non-manipulation now. I focus on non-suppression now. I focus on non-reaching out and dominating now. Yeah, I focus on staying awake now. I focus on not escapism now. If I have done it in the past, yes, but now I'm not. And just keep focusing on that, and that builds up the upright axis right in the center of your chitta, your heart, your awareness. Yeah, and you keep giving attention to that. The bad stuff begins to recede. It's got no food. It's not getting energized. It's not getting you activated. It loses energy. It begins to lose power over you. You don't get pulled out into it. Right? So that's right view. And we say, yeah, get it. So let's keep tuning into that. And whenever this view then connects to how we act on the surface. This is why it's wholeness, isn't it? That inner axis surveys, or from there you can survey the whole sphere of your karma, of your emotional, psychological actions and the results of them. You can survey all that from that place. And if you stay centered within that, that stuff is not going to, swing you out, catch you out. And then you begin, now from this place, I'm learning, getting the education from the depths. No fighting, no stealing, no lying, no manipulation, no distracting, no dishonesty. No. Therefore, I'm going to carry that message into the sense world, right? I live from right view. Therefore, this wholeness is becoming even more whole. It's also pertinent to the sense realm. And so it's through that the wholeness is operating, all that balance is operating all levels, on a relational level, on a relationship to the environment, a relationship with other people, a relationship to the body. Not escaping through cosmetics. The body's like this. No distraction. It's like this. Not pretending it's something other than it is. Not putting out as a, some kind of advertising slogan. Hey, look, I'm really great, or anything. It's just no labeling. So so we carry that through, and what's going to happen is that upright axis is not just some kind of esoteric meditation experience. It's a very pragmatic guide for how we're living, on all levels, and you're beginning to undercut the power of these corrupting influences that are rampant in the world that we witness through our eyes and read in the news and see on the television, all that. There are these corrupting influences, often masked and veiled and disguised and prettied up, but they're about, how you look. Female body is supposed to look really, really attractive. What the hell for? What are you going to attract? Stupidity, It's just like, what's it? And yet that's the message, isn't it? You ever see, all the messages on like, it's really is really really disappointing and abusive, deeply abusive. The whole, half the species not valued on the integrity or dignity or self-respect, just valued on the shape of their body. How deep is that? And what does that do? You can make it look like fun, but it's not. It's, the amount of sexual abuse and, and despair over the shape of one's form, and money, of course, behind it all. Anyway. Yeah, you know. So that's rampant. You're getting it dripped in role models, getting this message dripped in, day out. So you really got to take a stand and live it. And then your mind isn't thinking, worrying, relating to those crazy fantasies. This is right view. First, path, beginning and the end of the path, right view. Whether you're going to feel peaceful or not, that comes later, but we established right view. And then as you're bringing awareness into that, just giving steady presence and attention to that, to the energies of that, they're going to amplify. If you keep giving attention to the actions, then you'll learn things. Don't do this, do that. But even more powerfully, if you give the quality of the depth of the mind, which is awareness, to the quality of the depth of that view, which is a certain bright, vibrant, open stability, you get very powerful effect. Steady cultivation of deep stability and a clean and fruitful deepening into something pretty immaculate and free, liberating. And so we learn the laws of the depth. And depth is important because this is where we should take our lead from. It may sound like it's subterranean, but depth is just the term. You know, it's actually bigger than the surface. Because when you go there, you can experience, you know, a vast array of yesterdays and different realms, hellish realms, beautiful realms, bright realms, longing, you know, passion, space, spaciousness, radiance, joy. It's a vast realm. This is the realm of chitta, awareness, heart. Yeah. Now, in terms of, I've mentioned light briefly, you know, as was said very obviously in the bodily sense, we have this surface body, that which is impacted by sense contact, right? We all know that one. But when we sit and close our eyes and just stop and don't go out through the senses and just rest, relax some of the muscles and the energies in the body, oh, this body is now this feeling experience, a feeling sentient, sensitive experience. I don't quite get the anatomical description in there. I get pressures and warmths and sense of occupying some space and some ground, and there's that. And it's quite mobile. Even when you're sitting still, things are happening in there. So we say, yeah, there's this what we call the felt body. We would say is the inner or the depth body, if you like. It's the right? Now mind, the same thing. You've got the manas mind, which is essentially the mind of deals with thought, and it's scurrying around, noticing, thinking, remembering, calculating. It's an object organizer. It's a secretary. It keeps like a calendar. It's noting notes and making notes and yeah. So it's surface, because what it's doing is translating things into concepts. Yeah. Oh, that's Susan. Oh, that's yesterday. Oh, that's February. Oh, that's not Libya. Oh, that's that. You know, translating, bringing up these concepts. And those concepts then it throws in to another aspect of mind called chitta, which means we feel it. We feel what the word Susan does to me, or what the term Libya does to me, or what tomorrow dinner does to me. We feel this, ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. So we have the inner aspect to it. Two are connected, and yet this inner quality is not just being pinged on by the manas faculty, this chitta. It's also picking up qualities from the inner body, like don't feel very comfortable here, feel rather shaky, I feel very stable and grounded. Feeling tense. And these play together. If my inner mind, my heart is feeling anxious, my body starts to tense up. Yeah. If my inner mind, my chitta is feeling depressed, my body starts to slump. Yeah. If it's feeling happy, my body starts to open. Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I can think, I feel like I got a weight on my back. Nothing on your back. Nothing on your back. Feels like I've got a weight on my back. What's that mean? It means obligation. I don't want to. Burdened. Okay. Now that's a message from the chitta, and it does affect your felt body, feels oppressed or stuck, and it even affects your physical body. You see people begin to slump under the pressure of their body energies are doing. So it does trickle out into the physical world. And similarly, the beauty of the chitta, when it touches into its health and love and radiance, that trickles out into the physical realm. Buddha said, if you practice metta constantly, then your complexion is radiant. I don't think he was into beautification. It's just it means you're in good health. The channels are open. You feel bright because of the quality of loving kindness. So these two are it's all interrelated. That's the wholeness. It's all interrelated, and yet we're taking our message, primary message, from the depth. When the depth is organized around right view, uprightness. Yeah. And this is where as you recognize, love then is much more than a sentiment. It's a certain radiant energy that begins to embrace and warm our bodies, our hearts, and other people. It just happens. It's the nature of chitta, is to be loving when it's not compressed, confused, restricted. Just that's what it does. Now, when unfortunately, this is not necessarily the case, is it? Yeah. And so we have to refer to what's it like, the constricted, confused state. As we all experience this to some degree or another, we should know it for what it is, not some kind of personal something wrong with you, but a piece of territory or a piece of a domain that arises through the power of ignorance. And we're subject to that. So the first aspect of this ignorance, or not being in touch with the wholeness, the balance, the purity, the immaculate openness, the unconditioned, not being in touch with that, it's called avijja, not being in touch with, not noticing, forgetting, having a direct realization of it. What happens if energies are not collected and they spill out? They start, and they spill out, and this spilling out of awareness is called consciousness, at least in early Buddhism. Consciousness can be used in a number of ways, of course. What it does, it means is that experience is now split into 6 different levels, different kinds of experiences: visual experience, auditory, tactile, gustatory, olfactory, and mental. So we live in a fragmented world of sights, sounds, and touches, and the mind tries to stitch them together. They're completely separate experiences. Seeing something is nothing like smelling it. Completely different set of values occurs, different impact on the chitta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you look at a lovely bright orange, looks very beautiful, sink your teeth into it, you get the bitter tang of the pith. So, it's completely different from the visual. The impact it has on your chitta is different. Sight, sound, and you can get very conflicting messages about what things are. Attractive things look attractive to the eye can be quite poisonous to the body. Nice bottle of Johnny Walker looks very nice. It's in a nice smoky glass and so forth, handled by some fellow in a lounge suit with attractive bit of stubble on his chin. Suitable lighting. Johnny Walker looks good to me. I feel like I'd like to have a shot. It's actually a kind of poison that you can spend $50 to a bottle to consume. No positive effects on anything other than the shareholders of Johnny Walker. But looks good, probably smells quite good too. Very conflicting messages. The upright mind just don't want this messages to the sense realm. I want to know the meaning, the purpose. Stay with that. Distraction, don't want it. Yeah. But so this is sense consciousness, where our intelligence gets broken up into different modes of intelligence, visual intelligence, so forth, auditory intelligence, and then conceptual intelligence tries to say, oh, that means that's good, sticks it together. And of course, we are very easily duped. Yeah, you get we're easily duped. Propaganda, advertising gives us mental signs of comfort, attractive, glamorous, relaxed, happy, buoyant, jubilant, interesting, vigorous, vibrant, and so forth. Yeah, gives us those meanings and sticks them on bottles of whiskey, fast cars, clothing, and so forth. Yeah, so we buy it. We're looking for the meaning, and we get duped by the thinking mind. Says, "Oh, that means that," right? So this is consciousness shatters everything into this. It also divides the experience into there's the object of consciousness, sight, and there's a subject. The subject is called me. Although we've never been able to find out what this me is, every time there's an action of sense consciousness, me, the sense of me being the seer, the hearer, the toucher. I'm the one who is touched and sees things. Who is this me? We don't know. But it keeps happening. It keeps happening so often, and it seems to be a depth experience, so it must be real till you try and find out what it is. And you find, oh no, it must be. So we look for something in the mind that says, I'm a me, and you can't quite find it. So it also divides our experience into these two aspects. And the Buddha eventually laid out the whole thing is you've got consciousness and you've got form, that is some kind of sense object. They act together. We see a thing, consciousness apprehends a form, a visual form. Okay, click, that happens. Yeah. And then what happens? Feeling occurs, impact occurs, perception, meaning occurs. Oh, that's one of those. Feeling occurs. Oh, pleasant, agreeable. Right? Then what happens? Things start moving. Right? Activation occurs. This is called the five khandha. Consciousness, vijnana, body, form, rupa. Perception, meaning. What the bit that gets you, the bit where things enter you and say, oh, that's one of those. Yeah. You get it. That's called perception or meaning or interpretation. And then feeling, pleasant, agreeable, more, not agreeable, less. And then activation, I want, I don't want, get this, get that, don't do this, don't do that. What's about that? So all kinds of activations. Okay, so this things start going. Activation sankhara forms the mind. The mind gets shaped by it. It's called a mental formation. It shapes the mind into particular narrowness or breadth, or driven mind, sluggish mind, oppressed mind, groundless mind. So it's spinning out, spinning mind, gives it a particular form, shape, subtle shape to it. Scrambled mind, right? So scattered mind, broken up into bits and pieces. That's the form. That's the sankhara. The activations are just whirled it around until it's like cotton candy. So the innate solidity and composure and stability and togetherness of the uprightness has just been spun out or thrust off into something or the other, or sunk down into something. Yeah. So, this is called the five khanda, the five aggregates, the things that they aggregate, they stick things together. But they stick things together, first of all, because things are broken up. The wholeness is broken up into a sight, a sound, broken up into me and it, broken up into pleasure, pain, broken up into forward and backward, broken up into want and don't want, broken up into understand and don't understand. Everything's broken up. Yeah, and the energies are then unsettled, moving, trying to move toward the pleasant and the agreeable and the mind, and avoid the disagreeable, the unpleasant. So it's continually zipping around. And in that activated state, then, of course, the process goes on. We're aware of our activations. There's awareness of activations. There's a feeling of, oh, I don't like this state. I must be a mess. Something wrong with me. I'm so stirred up and activated. So what happens? More activations. I've got to stop being a mess, get myself together, pull myself together, do something, sort myself out. More activation. I can't quite get it. How did I get some peace of mind in here? More activation. Maybe I should try this, that, and the other. More activation. How do I get some peace of mind and quiet and stability? I must attain the wholeness, get into jhana, become enlightened so that I can be top of acting and just stop doing all that. Just get into your body, find out where your feet are, and let go of all that stuff, and that's tough, that's firm, but it's loving. It's saying you're going to harm yourself doing that. So the restraint is considered one of the guiding principles of true care, self-care, is collect yourself, because you can do yourself so much harm. It may not be cuddly love, but it's pragmatic for your welfare. The gift of restraint, that it can be done. The gift of morality can be done. The gift of mindfulness, it can be done. It's there for you. Yeah. This is the five khanda. The Buddha said, this already is suffering and stress. This reality is laden, suffused with suffering and stress. But there is a way out of that. The way out is to go not to any fragment, but to the wholeness, what brings around a sense of holding it all. So we say this is the fundamental gift. Another fundamental gift we have, most basic function of citta, is it's aware. We can be aware of the agitation and we just embrace it. That's wholeness for you. We can be aware of the fear. We embrace it. We don't know how to embrace it, but the wholeness knows how to embrace it. If you come to the upright axis in your body and mind, the no escape, There's no blame, there's no guilt, there's no quibbling, there's no fighting, there's no dumping, just the straight now, here and now. Centering that, what's going to happen is the chitta begins to find itself steady and it begins to open. That's what it does. It opens across its field. Okay, the field, I mean this domain of sankharas and aggregates and stuff that's there, opens across it, just spans it. Staying, the more you're able to stay upright within that and breathing in that, sending energy through that, or letting energy flow into that channel, it is going to widen, open. And you can, because you can notice that effect. Now you're no longer desperately panicking. You can feel the panicking, but somehow there's something aware of it. Yeah? You can do it. It's not comfortable, but you can do it. What makes it more comfortable? Just extend a certain sense of love within that. I mean care. I mean gentleness. I mean soothing. I mean grandmother. I mean what works for you to bring you that idea. You know, embracing. Because this is the energy of the opening citta. And we need to follow that energy. It's not energy of discrimination. It's not an energy of blaming yourself, blaming others. It doesn't do that. Useless, pointless. We all do it, but how much good does that do? You know, he hurt me, he did me wrong, he lied to me. Yeah. So what benefit do you derive? Can you feel in yourself directly here and now from going into blaming? Not denying other people's stuff, but just now, does blaming benefit you? What about loving? I'm not saying you have to love the person, but begin to spread that domain of healing love over the abused, distorted, saddened, depleted state. It's called compassion. You can call it forgiveness or you can call it compassion, just terms. Metta is the willingness, is the beginning of that movement, the beginning of that movement of the citta. It means I'm willing. I'm willing to be. I want to bring some energy out. I'm no longer doing the other things that one does with energy in the confused state. Fight, flight, freeze, faint, or just basically fudge the issue altogether. That's stupid energy. Understandable, absolutely understandable, but stupid. Not wise energy, ignorant energy. Damage. So first quality of wise energy, energy based on right view, is one has to metta. We call it metta. It's the willingness to be present. I really want to, and a recognition of the potency of that upright quality. It's got some good juice in this. Maybe it could extend. That extending, that's metta. Karuna, it meets the distressed. Yeah. Mudita, it begins to experience the relief from distress. Yeah. And acknowledge that there's beyond distress. There's also the benevolent. And there's the healed. And the unafflicted, it widens. Why is it wider? Because it's often the case that the most dominant features that come to us are the sad features. I've never met anybody feeling obsessed with goodwill. If I've got a real problem, I'm continually feeling happy all the time. How can I deal with it? You know, I'm feeling so uplifted and bright, it's really becoming a problem for me. No, it's always, I feel miserable, despondent, hurt, betrayed, abused, rejected, failure, incomplete, anxious, nervous, wreck. What can I do about it? So it's the unsatisfactory aspects that really jump up. They're right there. They're the kind of we would say in the they're the first piece of business that Chitta has to get across. And as it wide as it comes into, oh yeah, now some of that intensity of that has died down. I do recognize, oh yeah, there's a beyond this, and there are beautiful people, and there are those I feel grateful for. But the thing that presses you and pushes you is the suffering, isn't it? It's the thorn in your thumb that hurts, not the other 9 digits that don't hurt. It's the one that gets you. So mudita is a little bit wider. And upekkha, equanimity, wider still. Just, it comes, it goes. There's bad stuff, there's good stuff. Stay upright. Just stay upright. Things will work themselves out. It'll work itself out. Trust the upright. Trust the opening. There's going to be some crazy stuff. Yeah, because as you begin to open, then all kinds of unresolved material comes up in the depths, comes up the unresolved, the orphans of consciousness, the orphans of the personality hasn't been able to accommodate them. It's run away from them, it's closed them down because it couldn't manage them. This is the abuse experience. 2 kinds of abuse. One is the abuse that's direct abuse. That is, you actually are, wounded, hurt, afflicted, accused, insulted, rejected directly. And there's the other kind of abuse, which is you just don't get enough of the good stuff. There's a withdrawal of what should have been there. There should have been a little bit of empathy, a little bit of warmth, and that wasn't there. And this is and the Buddha talks about these qualities very lightly. And the terms he uses, when you translate again to the English, it looks rather complicated. He says, there is a demeritorious mental formation. How about that? Right? Either through your own actions or through the actions of others, one acquires a demeritorious mental formation. Either through your own actions, you were abusive, therefore you're going to get the results of that, or through the actions of others. People did abuse you, therefore, you pick up that. You get shaped by the abusiveness of other people. Okay? You become nervous, you become resentful, you become anxious, and maybe when that starts, your chitta gets compressed, you get a bit violent, snappy, unpleasant. You're shaped by abusive qualities. Okay? So this can be systemic, so we see things of racism where people feel extremely abused, not sometimes chronically or sometimes just like acutely, or just the constant sense of you're not adequate, there's something wrong with you just because you've got different physiognomy. So living with that day in, day out, what's that going to do? That's what the Buddha called a demeritorious mental formation occurs. One feels nervous, one doesn't feel safe, one feels anxious. Well, what's and of course, females, women, you acquire how many women are sexually abused just because they came down they've got genetically got a different set of genes. Okay, that means you're up for abuse, girls. That's what you're here for. Yeah, and so common, isn't it? So, if you're female, then, maybe you do feel a bit insecure and uncertain. And, that's called it's not your fault, but through the actions, the observations, the psychologies, the pressures of others, you acquire a demeritorious mental formation is the rather plain term, way that comes out in the English translation. What it means is your heart is shaped. Your heart is pressed, your heart is squeezed, your heart is distorted, is under pressure through no fault of your own. And this is the saddest bit of it, because if I have done something stupid, I can think, oh, yeah, you idiot, that was stupid. I see the results of that. Stop doing it. Okay, got it. But you can't stop having a female body if you've got one. So you can be living in that. And hopefully this isn't, I mean, what do I know? I've got one of these male things, white male, I'm privileged just in that fact alone. Mm. So what happens? What happens through, okay, your parents weren't really that good at it. They liked having kids, or they liked intercourse, but they didn't really have the kit for decent parenting. So what happened? Did you get enough of that? What should have been there? Safety, security, love, stability. Who's to say? But it's this, you can't change it because you didn't do it. And yet, so often what happens is the person feels, oh, that's me, I better do something. So they're been trying to make themselves good enough, accepted. The only response that the person can make is do something, even though they can't. They try and do something to make themselves acceptable to others, agreeable to others. So others will give them some warmth and respect, whatever. And it doesn't work, because even if others do, they haven't deactivated that which is imprinted on their hearts. Nobody else can get in there and do it for you. And it sounds rough to say you've got to do it yourself, but it's not exactly like that. Your person can't do it, but the wholeness can. The love can. The uprightness can. Constantly referring to that, taking it back, your heart, from the abusive realm. Take it back. Enrich it. So it's obviously there's skillful deeds we do, and yet I've certainly been very conscious of people doing all kinds of very skillful, beautiful things. I think, wow, he's great, she's great. Oh my goodness, fantastic person. They still feel they're not good enough. They still find fault. Doing all kinds of stuff that I can't do. Still find fault. Still think they're not good enough. Still trying to make it better. But how, this is good. Because actions that go externally don't change it. Now, it's not to say that actions aren't any good, but you've got to, what's called punya, right? It means you've got to actually distill the qualities of those actions, where they came from, and take them back. This was my goodness, this was my generosity, this was my clarity, this was my applied effort. That came from here. And dwell in it. This is called accumulating, gathering the merit, and it's got to potent energy to it. Yeah. Now, sometimes this seems kind of obscure. How do I do that? Well, it's the wholeness that does the work. And it's the return to wholeness that does it. You start with the upright axis and you don't feel that great. Okay, so where does it go from there? We'll start as you're sitting there. The Buddha also says you have such a thing as a meritorious bodily formation. And a demeritorious bodily formation term is kaya sankhara. The mental formation is citta sankhara. And another sutta, so these are seen at, I was looking at earlier today, Samyutta Nikaya 1225, Anguttara Nikaya 323, if you want to check these out. And it may seem mysterious, what's he talking about? If you look also, you refer to Majjhima Nikaya 44, you'll see there the nun Dhammadina says, breathing in and out is a bodily formation. In and out breathing is a bodily formation. Perception and feeling is a mental formation. Right? So we can recognize when I get upset and angry, yeah, all that stuff, all that juice runs through my system. My body gets hard, it gets hot, it gets tight, right? That's a bodily formation. Yeah. When I feel comfortable and expansive and unstressed and open, my body feels rather different. That's a skillful bodily formation, right? So we can say it's to do with the somatic energies running around. And some of them are skillful and some of them are unskillful. Now the nun, Dhammadina, is saying right in the center of that, the organizing principle within that is called breathing in and out. So that in and out breathing is the basic juice, or the energy of breathing in and out, the energy that does breathing in and out. Right? You feel this flow of sensations. What's keeping it going? There's an energy that's pushing it in and flowing it out, and you get energy suffusing your body. That's energy is the kaya sankhara. When you're breathing in and out, and there's no restriction, the energy spreads across the field in a very harmonious way. This is called samadhi. Now, when it's afflicted, it just jumps and spurts and straggles and jerks and flounders. That's called an unskillful bodily formation. Yeah. And so your breath energy, your bodily energies are scattered. Now, if we bring them back into wholeness and collectedness and stability, that they spread across the entire bodily field. And now what happens to the citta sankhara, the mental energy or the mental stuff, you have a perception of space. You have a perception of radiance. You have a perception of comfort. You have pleasant feeling. That is called a skillful mental form. When it's an unskillful mental form, it's twisted, distorted, fractured, broken, imbalanced, agitated, stirred. And so the organizing principle behind this is breathing in and out and sustaining skillful mental or perceptions, meanings. What are these skillful meanings that we should, well, what are the unskillful meanings? I look around, I see threat. That's an unskillful one. I look around and I see things to crave. That's an unskillful meaning. We look around and say, "Oh, I want one of those." That's an unskillful one. What does it do to you? What does it do to your mind? You look around, you feel terribly worried. That's an unskillful. What does that do to your mind? Does it make it more stable? No. Yeah. Right. So we look around the sense world. There's plenty of meanings that we can see that have unskillful effects. Occasionally you see something that's quite skillful, fortunate effect. A good friend, a Buddha, the sound of chanting, the silence. meanings that give rise to a sense of safe, spacious, welcome, gentle. They give rise to skillful meanings. Those skillful meanings, if dwelt upon, if lingered upon, build up a skillful mental form. And those, the more you linger in those, there's a possibility to regain the heart. The heart begins to shape itself in line with the particular signs and meanings that we bring into awareness. Just as it's been made confused by the signs and meanings that are hurtful, that we remember, that we feel traumatized by. Just as, afflictions, pains, abuse that was wreaked upon you 10 years ago still sits in your heart and still retains its impression, its meaning, so that you still have that running for you, even though the event has passed. So that's still embedded there. Yeah. Now, so we need to basically begin to establish skillful meanings. So we've got somewhere safe, comfortable to stand, where we do feel this is what it's like to be sane and whole and healed. Like this. I mean, I can't be there all the time, but it's great to know there's that possibility. I can be this. And then this personality begins to change. I'm no longer so nervous or whatever, or agitated or distracting myself because I feel comfortable. This is called samadhi. You sit in that. Now, the transformation process, which is, we use the word love again. You find your healthy place, your place of stability, your upright axis, your place of warmth and okayness and steadiness. You center in that. You bring your body energy into that. You breathe into that. It extends across your bodily field. It begins to unfold these nervous tensions in your body. And then as it does so, it begins to move into these painful areas and begin to melt them. It's not a lightning fast process, but naturally, as I've said, pain is the one that comes to you, isn't it? It's the one that most immediately presents itself, is the painful, the unresolved. In meditation, we're desperately trying to shut that out, like, oh, put that aside. Which is perhaps okay for step one, till you get your healthy stuff going. And then you say, okay, let's just open up, and there's the pain, there's the hurt, there's the shame, there's the disgrace, there's the not good enough. And instead of just thinking about it or spinning out on it, what's the energy like? Tight, tangled. And you stay in your steady space, and it's not exactly like moving into it. It's just the ceasing to resist the pain, the uncomfortable. Now, this is the law of the depth, the deep area. Now, in daily life, we can walk from A to B. There's such a thing as distance. In the depth, there's no distance. You don't go from place to place. You stay where you are and stuff happens. So the idea of you can move through things isn't quite true. You don't move through things. If you stay still, you move through things. Doesn't make sense, does it? If you stay still and upright, that upright energy by itself begins to move through things without pushing. It begins to suffuse, rather like steam, without pushing. And all we need to do is stop resisting the uncomfortable. Bear it in mind. Bear the uncomfortable and the comfortable in mind. It's the wholeness that does the work. Bear base yourself on the uncomfortable, on the comfortable, gather that resource, and as the uncomfortable arises, meet it with compassion, with goodwill, non-resistance. Stay in your center. Don't deal with it. Don't understand it. Don't change it. Don't describe it. Just stay present with that. And the quality of the whole, of the upright, will begin to make itself felt. It's the wholeness that does the work. It begins to take us out of suffering and stress at the depth. Hopefully, I would like it that you don't have any great serious problems. It doesn't have to be intense, but it could be those nagging worries, those feelings of not having done well enough, the concern about so and so. All quite understandable, but are they doing you any good? Are they by themselves of benefit? Worrying about somebody, does that make them any better? Worrying is frustrated love. It's a frustrated kind of love. Now, if we let go of the frustrated aspect, then the love can expand. That's the law. That's the teaching. That's what the Buddha did. There will be, of course, more to say and more to experience as the retreat goes on, but that's plenty for now. So thank you for listening.
Andamayam Dhammagataya Sadhu Karam Dhammase Sadhu 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 Anumodam.
So as we've kind of suggested from time to time, stay with the energy. When you've heard a talk, listen to a talk, probably quite a bit stirred up, one or another, and stay with that as it settles down. What remains? Maybe ideas remain, maybe some sense of opening remains, maybe a sense of, and stay with that. And so, it's in the silence that the teaching is completed. Sustained silence completes the transmission. And then we move on. So where we might move on, if there's any such thing, is walking. I hope you've been doing some walking meditation. There's no particular instruction in it, but it's a natural practice and you've been sitting a lot, still a lot, just explore the sense of how the body moves. Remember, walking is also walking from the depths. Depth. Stay in touch with the upright and the depths. It's not about covering ground. On the external level, that's just what happens. If you get the body going, it does cover ground, but that's not your concern. That's what bodies do. Your concern is to stay within that experience of movement, how body energies shift to accommodate movement. It's like another kind of breath, isn't it? Right? The breath is the body moving certain ways. Walking is another kind of moving, with a certain similar rhythmic quality to it, just like breathing. Rhythmic quality as it flows from one side to another side, just like breathing. It's pretty much energetic. It's just another kind of breathing. We call it walking, but it's energy moving in a steady, composed, fluid way. And the beauties of walking meditation is that it does activate the tissues more. Expose, the whole body has to come into play more fully, perhaps, than when we're sitting. There's also an excellent meditation for moving through the sense fields. So when we sit, we kind of close the sense fields, at least those we can close. We can't really close the mind, but we close the other sense fields. That has its risks because it often throws us straight into the mind field, which is a minefield. So when we're walking, by having the other senses open, it kind of tends to lessen the intensity of the mind field because energy is distributed over sight, sound, and touch. So when you're walking, your eyes are open, your ears are open, body, tactile. But you're not going out through any of those. They're just there, they're just open. They're just open, you're not looking at anything particular. So your eyes are downcast, it's the openness. This is a very good place to balance your awareness. It's neither internal nor external. It's sitting right on the border where you can sense being activated by a sight. Then step back internally. And what is seeing? What is the nature of seeing? It's a certain, you can lessen your concern about the object of seeing and focus or be aware of the energy of visual consciousness. There's a certain luminosity to it within which forms appear. Just as within the hearing, there's a certain background silence as sounds run across it. A tactile body, there's a certain inner vitality that's occurring, even though those sensations touch it. So we're aware of this the depth experience and how the surface experience is meeting that. But instead of going out to the surface, to the visual, the object, we're staying in the doorway, where seeing is just seeing, hearing is just hearing, touching is just touching. We're balanced, we stay upright. And this really helps to stop, because when we find that, it helps to check the mind from running out into thought. The mind is certainly cognitive, it's able, but the thoughts just rush across it, and you can sense that inner awareness with thoughts moving through. Don't go into the thoughts. Don't concern yourself with them. Maintain that stable openness. So even as you're moving in one way, there's the uprightness is stable. The openness remains stable. That's your practice. So let's take some time for this meditation, and yeah. Clearly, it's you can take your time with it, and give yourself half an hour, 40 minutes or so, and we'll meet again. Yeah, in when the next screen opens. So wherever you are, however you are, might want to incline towards sitting again. See what feels useful. But this last 45 minutes, it's moving back towards this more strongly connected form. It's not really visual, it's a sense of sharing. Whether we're walking, we're sharing. Standing, we're sharing. Sitting, we're sharing. But it's quietening the movement down. Softening the movement, returning to much less voluntary movement, just the involuntary tide of breathing in, breathing out. When that feels right for you. So there's no bell here. Just take it as you want to land into this. Feel free to re-enter this. There will be a conclusion of the session in about 40 minutes' time. Wherever you are, however you are, to reference the same place wherever you are in your depth, halfway in, halfway out, very deep. Difficult stuff, beautiful stuff, very quiet, stirred. That's not you, that's not yourself, that's territory. We call that territory, chitta territory, accumulations, acquisition. Wherever you are, however you are, the knowing of this is territory. However it forms, whatever pictures, images, memories arise, perceptions, these are aggregates, these are accumulations, these two are not self, not what you are, not what you need to fight with, claim, stir yourself up about. How to avoid doing that. Somewhere in this, there's a center. And what will help you is to find within this your body, your sense of having a body. Having a body in depth, that is a certain quality of uprightness, certain quality of dimension, upright. There's a top and a bottom to it. How far up does it go? And how far down does it go? What's the axis of this embodiment? Descending, descending, descending. Descending. And somewhere at the deepest place or the lowest place as you descend, there's a place of sense of stability. Call this ground. Cannot go beneath this. It's a place of rest. If you widen your awareness around there, there's also a sense of safety, easy span. Let your breathing be felt at that very deep place, the ground place. The very root of the body, the root of the breathing, where it just begins and just ends. Anchor, that's your anchor. And your uprightness grows from there. You get to the very top of your breathing. Rises, rises. and can go no further. Not obstructed, but just space. Open. This is the axis, open, stability. Bringing the awareness to that. Enriches its potential. So please continue as you see fit, dwelling in that, contemplating that, bearing that in mind. Any posture, movement that you make. I'll return in about an hour to respond to questions.